Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Sibelius Academy's new interview series, SIBA Talks. My name is Keval Shah. I'm a pianist, broadcaster, and lecturer of lead music here at the Sibelius Academy. For those of you who have not been to one of these before, the idea of the series is to introduce to you, the public, just some of the extraordinary people in our academy community. Alumni, faculty members, and visiting artists, all of whom help shape and define who we are as a university. In each episode, I'll interview my guest, we'll speak about their life and their art, and they've also all chosen some of the music that means the most to them to share with us. So we'll all have a bit of a listening session as well. At the end, you will also have an opportunity to ask any of your own burning questions, so please bear that in mind as we're going along. If there's something you're dying to know, please do ask. My guest this evening is a pioneering artist who defies boundaries of genre and style, and whose work, in my opinion, simply refuses to be reduced to any one label. She's a folk musician, a kantele artist, singer-songwriter, a true experimentalist, I would say, a musician whose work is constantly evolving in new directions, informed by a host of diverse stylistic influences. She has won the Nordic Council Music Prize, she has won a Finnish Emma Award, both of which I think solidify her position as one of Finland's most fascinating and innovative artists. Of her own relationship to music, she says, "It was never my dream to be a musician. I just liked it, so I kept playing." Please welcome Maija Kauhanen. Welcome.
Thanks.
So Maija, music was something you just started and never stopped, and now you're here.
Yes.
So let's go back to the very beginning and talk a bit about your first musical encounters. You were born in Helsinki and then moved to Vantaa, and by the age of 7, you were living in Järvenpää.
Yes.
So what do you remember of your early musical experiences there?
Yeah, I went to this music school or this music play, a musiikkileikkikoulu that you go once a week playing kantele. So that was my earliest memory, playing music, and I wanted to play some instrument. So then my parents and the music school picked me kantele because I have lost one of my fingers in an accident when I was 1. So I think they offered drums or trumpet or kantele. So then kantele was chosen to me.
And how much experience orally had you had listening to this instrument before you picked it up?
I don't know. I can't remember. There's my father's second cousin was a kantele teacher. So I think maybe I have heard it, but I think that I can't remember that I wanted to play kantele. It was something that just happened.
A lucky coincidence.
Yes.
Do you remember what it felt like when you first started playing? Did you have a sense that this instrument felt like something which was an extension of yourself? Did it feel comfortable to play? Or were you sort of finding your way through it slowly?
Yeah, I maybe never questioned that. I just went every week to the lesson, and I think that I liked it. There's actually really cool. There's my 2 really early age music teacher, kantele teachers here in the audience also. So I think that I liked to play it, but I liked when I could improvise and make my own music. There was just one kantele teacher in the music school where I went, Arja Kastinen, and also there was always like one teacher that was teaching folk music. So also that's why I started to play folk music and traditional music. So I think that I liked every time that I could make new things. So I had always one song that I needed to practice, but always I had a homework, like just compose a new intro or make your own things or sing a song and invent chords. And I remember that I liked do my own stuff.
So from the beginning, is it fair to say that your relationship to music and playing is one that has been about sort of experimenting and creating stuff from scratch?
Yeah, but I think also that's a really big part of the folk music pedagogy and also kantele, like how they teach kantele in Finland. So I never thought that there's something special, but of course now as a professional musician I have realized that not everybody make their own songs, but that was the reality that I lived many years. So we all played songs, and then I played in some kantele ensembles, but I played some folk songs, but also I always composed my own music.
I think it's interesting just to sort of for all of us to remind ourselves that indeed it's absolutely not the norm in many ways. If you think about musical cultures across the world, the norm isn't to spend your life interpreting and recreating things that have been written down, but actually to create things from scratch. So your musical training and your early experiences of playing kantele and writing songs is sort of what most people's musical relationships are if we think on a global level.
Yeah, and it was always, I remember that I like to make my own versions. So first learning something, was it traditional song or folk song, or I remember also I played a lot of Beatles, like Yesterday and so on. So it was also always about making your own version, and that I liked it a lot. So inventing new bass riffs and chords and combining different songs together.
And is it something which was supported in your household? I mean, I know that your father now has a very important role in your musical life, but and you could tell us a bit about that. But at the beginning, did you feel that the playing of music and the creating of songs was something which was encouraged when you were at home?
Yeah, it was. But my parents are not musicians, and we are 4 kids, and I'm the oldest. So it was just the thing that we all went to the instrument lessons and played, and I practiced my songs, but it wasn't kind of like a big thing, I feel. But it was fun, and we were all encouraged to do what we want, but it wasn't like maybe it wasn't something special, and it felt nice, really nice. It was there was no pressure to do something, but always when we wanted to go to music camps, I remember that my father like drove us like 500 kilometers to Ilomantsi and then actually back to just drop me and my sister to the kantele camp, and so there was a lot of supportive acts from my parents, but also there was nothing like a special. I feel that it was really relaxed to play.
No pressure.
Yeah, of course we needed to play our homeworks, but nothing that we need to decide what we want to be or how good you are or something like that.
It sounds like a very healthy relationship with music to have such a healthy relationship with playing and creating. I think is a very special thing. Do you see that now, sort of at your position in your career? That
maybe I see it now, but I didn't realize it then.
We'll all remind you now how lucky you were to have your psychologically healthy relationship with the music education. I think it's probably time that we hear your first piece of music, and you've chosen something from Pauliina Syrjälä.
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about what you've chosen and why?
Yeah, because I had many teachers, like when I was a younger and teenager, but then it's a thing that everybody, usually when you play folk music and kantele, you study all the kantele models, so from 5-string kantele to this biggest chromatic 40-string kantele and all the kantele models between. Some things you like play in different ways, and there are a lot of different techniques. But then she played this Saarijärven kantele that I remember that sounded really cool. And you played with a stick, with a tiny wooden stick as a pick. And I remember that was really nice. And she became to my teacher, and then actually she was starting to talk that it's really nice. I got interested, like, where you get the instruments. And then my father was thinking, oh, but I could build one. And that's why he started to build the instruments that also actually Pauliina started to play. So this is from her first album, Monet Nävöt, that I remember I listened a lot in that time.
Let's have a listen.
And she's really inspiring because she plays the tradition, but also plays kantele with like knitting sticks and I don't know, like whatever. She was also my teacher when I was studying in master studies, and I got once homework that, take 20 euros and go to Claes Olsson and find everything that you can play kantele with. And that is your homework, and do something, I don't know what. And like, chains and I don't know, screws, whatever. So I think she has always used kantele in very, very different ways.
Let's have a listen. Great. That was a tiny excerpt from Pauliina Syrjälä, a song called Mehta from the album Monet Nävät.
Yes.
You mentioned your experiences with her during your master studies, but if we just go back a little bit before then, before your master, you did have to do a bachelor. So you came to the Sibelius Academy first as a youth department student, and then you proceeded to the bachelor and master studies. Yeah. And when we spoke a few weeks ago, you said to me that it was during this time that you started to struggle with a sense of hierarchy within the folk world, a sense perhaps that the kantele tradition was seen as inferior to traditions like the fiddle tradition. Could you tell a bit about how you experienced that and how you resolved it?
Yeah, it was tough because I have been playing so many years with the kantele ensembles and by myself. But then when I entered like a youth department, for example, and then I was actually studying 1 year in Alakaniopisto in Kaustinen before I got in here. So then I started to actually play with other instruments. And then I also realized that we have totally different repertoire. So it's a really big thing to go to the jams when you study folk music. And also I still do when I play in the festivals all over. I go to jams in the festivals. But then it was hard to, because mostly my tinier kanteles that I could travel with were diatonic. And then actually many tunes we played in jams were chromatic. So it was a big struggle then, what is like the ideal of sound and phrasing. Of course, we were studying a lot like fiddle songs also, but like how to imitate that with kantele. Is it good enough? Even I do my best because I'm not a fiddle. And also like in jams sometimes like all the keys are changing and can I join? And I still struggle with that because I chose as my main instrument the diatonic kantele because I like the sound, but it also like cuts away a big part that going, for example, to the jams and being able to play the same songs and like relate the same like songs and music with other players that play totally different kind of music. So it's a struggle that I like. It was a big crisis in some point, and then I deal with it, and then I'm struggling with it a little bit, like nowadays too, when I would like to play with the others. But of course, then my solution was also that I started to play a lot of other instruments a little bit, so I can join. For example, in jams, I play harmonium and I play like melodica a lot in jams, and I play some mandolin and some flutes, so I can a little bit like join them if I want to.
So in a way, the limitation or what you perceive as a limitation of the instrument has pushed you to find alternative paths. The instrument itself has started to shape the way you work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of accepting that it's limited instrument, but then when you accept that one, then it actually opens another world that I think many kantele players like think about that. So it's a limited instrument, but then there is so many possibilities, but then you need to accept that it's really limited and actually find the motivation and like the inspiration from the sounds, tiny sounds and riffs. And actually, I don't think nowadays that like diatonic music is kind of boring or that I need to change keys all the time. So I play a lot around with the modes and sounds and riffs and different kind of keys and rhythms and riffs. So I think it's shaping my mind a lot, like how to also listen other music. Yeah. And also when I was studying in Sweden, I was there as an exchange student 2013 and 14, just before I graduated. So there was also this big idea of like fiddle sound is the only like perfect sound. And then we, like flute players, kantele player and singers, we were struggling like how to be fiddles. But then like we were talking that a lot. So like how to like, because for example, harmonium and kantele, you phrase the tunes really differently. And can you make all the ornaments or bowings? And what is actually this ultimate like goal? Is it the fiddle melody sound, or actually could we also study kantele phrasing or flute ornaments or harmonium, how they play melodies, and then actually have more tools to ourselves to like listen and play music differently.
There seems to be a deeper idea underneath this, it seems to me, that not only are you trying to articulate what your instrument can do and find a path through with your instrument, but is it fair to say that this also reflects a general artistic sense of finding out who you are and not comparing yourself or trying to be somebody else or trying to be like a different kind of musician? Do you see a parallel with that? Like, not only is it an instrumental thing, but it's also a personal artistic thing?
I haven't thought about it, but maybe yes. And of course, I feel with kantele, as a kantele player, we are not so many kantele players in the world. So also, if you think about fiddle players, it's everywhere, and also like guitars is everywhere. But kantele, there's so many things that we haven't done yet. So I feel also that there is a lot of inspiration, and I think kantele has developed, and kantele players have developed a lot in the last 20 years or 15 years. But there's a lot of things to do, and for everybody to find their places and like search the field. So I feel that really like inspiring. So there's a lot of things that we haven't done yet.
Could you just hint for us what sorts of things you mean by stuff that hasn't been done yet? What's in your mind when you think about stuff that hasn't been done?
The music, or different kind of combinations of kantele and other instruments, or the instrument has been developing a lot, like all kind of instruments, because kantele is many instrument. That's the thing. And also in the whole Baltic countries, it's not just the Finnish instrument. So we have a lot of sister instruments all around the world. In the Baltic countries and Middle East, and like many countries. So how to like develop your own playing style, or develop the whole instrument and find your way to do the music that you want to do.
It's quite an exciting possibility, isn't it? That this thing which we've just said has been, it's a limited instrument. It's got its sort of its framework, which it has to stay inside. But suddenly you've got all these connections to musical traditions in other parts of the world and different kinds of sounds. The limitation has really opened up a huge amount of possibility for you.
Yeah, definitely. And when I play concerts somewhere all over the world, there's always at least one person who come to show me a picture of their phone, like from their phone after the concert, that do you know this instrument? My grandfather played this, or my sister is playing this. Or it has been huge door to learn about new like instruments and the cultures. And also when I listen new music that I like, then I try to like find a way how can I play those sounds in my instrument. So I think that is really motivating, that I like it myself.
Is it time for some more music? Tell us about your second choice.
Yeah, this is the band that I listened a lot when I was studying my bachelor. This is a Swedish band, Den Fule, and it's a like kind of fusion, and I like their bass riffs and their grooves. And I remember I have seen them live many times, and I've been dancing a lot. And also I played on that time a lot of saxophone and folk flutes. So they are really good players in that band. So that also relates to that time.
Let's have a listen. Very cool indeed. This is the band Din Fula, and this track is Lugum Lake from the album of the same name from 1993.
Yes.
So you go to Stockholm, you come back here, you finish your studies, and then you have the transition between life as a student in Sibelius Academy and the profession.
Yeah.
How was that transition for you? Did you have a clear idea of what it meant to be a professional folk musician or professional kantele player?
That's a good question. There wasn't ready jobs for kantele players. But I started to, when I was entering the master, I started to prepare my life after the studies, because I knew that there is no jobs ready.
You started preparing already at the start of your master?
Yeah, kind of that. I remember that with my friends, I started some bands, and then we did when we had a holiday from school, I think spring and autumn, we did a tour in Finland. So also we practice to apply support and organize gigs, and we were doing, I was playing with my trio Rönsy, then with my two best friends at the time, so we played a lot. Sometimes we got money and sometimes not, but it was also little bit starting to search some things. And during my studies, I did this one longer exchange year, but also in that time it was possible to do this kind of shorter exchange. So I was visiting a lot in Stockholm and Estonia, playing some, even bagpipes. I don't know why, but I visited a lot in different kind of schools. So I feel that from then I already got some connections that I started to work after I graduated. And yeah, I just started many different projects. In some point I played almost in the 10 bands with some because I thought that I want to live as a musician, so I need to do many things to be able to do that. And so I started to, I can't remember what year, my student money ran out. So then I just finalized my master and at the same time I did some gigs. And I was thinking that I need to just do the job by myself, just start running the bands and organize the work. So then I did it.
It's a very practical approach to the career.
Maybe I'm working many times. I'm quite practical. So if I want to do something, I start to work with it, and of course finding the people around that had the same goal. So also starting the bands with the people that were ready to work for the goal. So I had my own bands, but also I played in different projects. For example, Mari Kalkun from Estonia, she was really the big part that she was studying here, and we started to play together. And then I traveled, I think 2 years after graduation. That was almost my main job, to play in her band also. So I did many things, and some studio work, and I done teaching, sometimes some kantele camps, but I traveled a lot because I thought it was fun.
I'm interested in how you balanced the very practical side of building and sustaining a career, and let's say the artistic vision or the artistic ideals, because it's one thing to be a practical musician who says, well, I need to earn money, I need to do things, and I'm enjoying it, so I'm going to go and do it. But clearly you've also developed a very strong sense of what kind of art you're interested in making. So how did you balance practical needs with artistic desires?
I have been actually lucky that I have been doing mostly the things that I like to do. And that has been actually a big title, that I play with people and do the music that I like to do, even though there has been many different projects. So I think that always it has been that I can bring something there that I can do. So it's quite free. So for example, that I have been playing some projects, but then they say that you can bring your stuff in, improvise, do your things. So I feel that has been really big thing for me. So no I can decide by myself what I play and bring my own stuff there. Then we can modify it together, but still not just playing. I tried it to play in some projects that somebody is saying really strictly what I need to do, and then I got bored and I but then I realized that I need to do, I feel actually physically bad if I can't do what I want. I don't know, it sometimes really, it feels stupid, but that is my goal, to just be able to do things that I like, but also together with other people.
How did you go about finding your partners? Because if I think about life as a student or life as an early career professional, as a musician, my last guest, Sebastian Fagerlund, said that it was during his time as a student here that he made very important connections with his peer group, and those same people that he was writing for as a student composer then became important artistic partners and continue to be. Have you found the same? Is it Sibelius Academy time which has shaped your future decisions?
Definitely, a lot, like those numbers of hours in the student cafe. I think that is really golden time. There you make your friends when you are talking whatever about music, but other things, when you are partying together, when you are sharing time. It's actually like, the same colleagues I'm working at the moment a lot. Or then somebody is running a festival, then we know each other there, and then maybe they want me to play, but maybe I can recommend my friends to play there. So there's a lot of connections. And also when I was in Stockholm, my maybe practical side also, I thought that I will jam with everyone. So I just scheduled a lot of jams, and then I started to think, like, who do I want to play with in the future? Maybe more regularly, but also if I need somebody in the project. And I'm featuring a lot at the moment in the different kind of album projects because I like it. Somebody's asking and then I'm playing and also doing a lot of studio work here because I think that is really interesting.
So you've sort of created a network of musicians just simply by doing it.
Yeah, doing and saying yes, but that is also because I feel that maybe the reputation of the Kantele wasn't the coolest one when I was studying bachelor. It has changed a lot, but then I feel that nobody ever asked me to play with them. I was always singing, so I felt that I needed to kick myself a little bit to ask people to play with me, or then that I present my things that I would like to play with you. So kind of daring to say that I like your playing. Like, if you ever need me, I'm available, and maybe I could do something like this. So that I have been practicing during the years, because I like to play different things.
We'll come back to this idea of daring and being brave enough to make suggestions in a moment, but I think it's time to listen to your next track, which is something from Estonia. Yes,
like I said, that I have spent a lot of time in Estonia, playing with different artists, but also when I started to play in this Mari Kalkun's band, I entered the Estonia folk music scene, and it's amazing. So there are so cool festivals. It's like a rock festival, like Viljandi Folk Music Festival, for example, big stages. It's a big rock festival with folk music. And it was amazing. And there was one person called Marja Nuut. Actually, I remember meeting her first time in this kind of student meeting when I was in first grade in my bachelor, and then I have been following her career as a soloist. So she's doing vocals and new versions of, like, she's composing but also singing some traditional songs and looping, working with the loopers and fiddle by herself. And actually now she's doing totally different kind of music. So she has entered the electronic music world and doing a lot of things with synths and like modular synths and so on. So I'm following her a lot. And I found from my CD box, this is one of her first like a demo album that I got in 2015. But I really recommend to check her music out. She's really cool.
Let's check it out.
Yes.
Siidi sulist kokku kõrrekesi, säädis sisse sulekesi, valeralera. Muunes sisse kolmiluna, haudus välja kolmipoega, valeralera. Üks oli kena kesalindu, teine laiskalane lindu, valeralera. Kolmas sidi sulist lind, kolmas sidi sulist lind, valeralera. Sest siis maailm loodud sai, sest siis maailm loodud sai, valeralera.
Extremely beautiful. There's Maria Nut, and that was a little excerpt from her first public demo from 2015. Maya, I've had the privilege, I would say, of attending quite a few of your gigs in the last year, and from my perspective, attending a Maija Kauhanen performance is quite wonderfully overwhelming. It's multisensory, it's very physical, really immersive, it's sort of embodied experience, I guess, that involves so much more than just listening. How do you build your performances, and how does it feel to you when you're on stage?
Yeah, the solo thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it started my solo show that I'm combining vocals and kantele and percussion. That I think I started it 2010 because I was thinking that I'm sitting and my feet are doing nothing. And then I wanted to try out stuff. And then it became more and more, like I said, I played in many projects, and then the solo was there, but then it kind of growed a lot. And I think in Stockholm, I started to really experiment that because nobody knew me. So, yeah, I like to do everything live, and also I get bored easily. So maybe that is what drives me to do things. So always, I'm practicing playing a lot in the gigs. So I practice by myself, but I don't play songs fully so much when I'm practicing. So I'm practicing the grooves and giving myself goals and always trying out something new, stretching rhythms or making up lyrics in the moment or playing in the sticks or always something new. And then because there's so many things I do at the same time, and I record a lot of my playing, and then I'm working with that where is the focus, kind of that I can hear when I'm thinking my bass drum foot, what it's doing if I'm practicing a new thing. So I immediately hear it when I'm singing that it's a little bit empty. So that has been my goal in many years to I'm recording my gigs and working with that kind of where my brain looks kind of and pushing that further somehow.
Again, a very practical approach to creation, to record your gigs, to analyze, to find solutions through practice, basically.
Yeah.
You're also not just playing kantele, though.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit about your fascination with sounds and finding sounds in unexpected places.
Yeah, I have in my right foot I have a bass drum, which is actually a Brazilian, is it not samba, but this carnival drum, tantan, because it sounded good. And then I have the hi-hat is a UU beans that then my father built me a system with the hi-hat stand. That is in my left hand. I also found it in some Sörnäinen, a eco shop, because it was somewhere in the corner. It sounded nice. So, and then I have a lot of wind bells that I have been buying abroad. There's some wind bells made of shells that I found in Germany, and then from Riga, it's something made of clay. And then a lot of different kind of wind bells made of different materials, and then I have a lot of with pots from flea markets. I played with just those feet and kantele many years because I was practicing different things, maybe rhythms and vocal things. But then I thought that now no, I can do it. Check. And then I need something more. So then I entered flea markets. And then I have a lot of pots. Like a lot. I don't know. When I was making my solo album, my friend Helmi was producing. And I was just like, I thought that my intuition said pots and silver plates and muffin tin, like tin, like muffin, like things, where like baking things. And Helmi said once, like, Maija, like, can you bring everything so we can pick up the sounds? And then I realized that I have like, I don't know, 60, 70. I have a lot. And then I also realized maybe this went a little bit too far. But it was so fun. Then I was thinking like this, like, I just love it. Like I every time I lived, when I was doing my second solo album, I lived in the forest, like because it was COVID time, I moved to Nuuksio. I lived next to a lake, so I went every day swimming. And then I just played and did some walking. So I felt that I was just so happy when I played the pots and visit flea markets. Then I was thinking like, can I just follow this intuition? And is it allowed that I'm really like playing pots and I love it? And I like just like, I don't know, 1 hour just playing those pans. But I was just so happy. And then my brother, who is a car mechanic, then I was thinking like I need to, like how do I travel with these pots? And then I asked my brother that, can you build me? I was like drawing like I want a tree where pots are hanging. And then I went there, and my little brother Mikko Matti was saying, like, okay, come here. And we went to his like this garage, what is full of equipments. And you know, this is like Pimp My Car. If you have watched those shows, it's like amazing, this room. And then I stayed there 1 day or 2 days, and he fixed everything. We went to Puuilo, and I just gave my credit card. And then he built me this pot tree that I have been traveling now. And that I'm thinking like, after I got this award, that I'm just like putting my pots to my suitcase, traveling to Japan to play my pots and pans. Oh, what is life?
You're a real musical omnivore. I love that you just take things from everywhere. Nothing is off limits, which is such a long way to have come artistically from feeling limited by your diatonic instrument.
Yeah, that is true. But also when you are, if you start to check what like percussion players all over the world, what they are using, and start to pay attention where you are in the festivals, it's a huge inspiration. I really recommend. I remember there's one like a percussion player that is playing just things from a forest, for example. Just like always before the gig, he picks up like leaves and things from the ground, and it's like, and one player played just instrument made of ice. And there are so many things that you can, when you start to check these percussion like kiosks. So I kind of zoomed that area. And it was really fun, and it is.
So I think it's time to listen to something of yours now.
Yes, this is a pot.
Minne
It's music by you, Maija Kauhanen, the title track of your album Mennet.
Yes.
It's almost time for us to finish. But before we do, I would like to ask you a question to come back to Sibelius Academy on the other side, because you're now teaching a little bit here, aren't you? And you yourself have an enormously busy and varied career as a musician, as we've discovered this evening. You're traveling a lot, lots of gigs, lots of live music, lots of recording, lots of project work. What are some of the most important things that you are trying to communicate to your students?
Yes, I have been teaching since I graduated, and I think that first I was teaching this this Saarijärven kantele and this stick playing, because we are not so many that are playing, but luckily there are now many players, so I have been actually passing all my students to them. And now at the moment I have been working with the master students. And actually always I have been working students and with their own materials. And I think that kind of practical things also, that what skills you need when you are a musician. So for example, that singing, rhythmical playing, accompanying things, like how to play like in the studio, for example. So if I say play something, how to play tight and like rhythmic playing. But now when I've been teaching master students, I think, and I find really inspiring, and I want to do this daring, like how to dare to think, do your things, and maybe how to build atmosphere in the lessons, both ways, that maybe the students could show me something personal in their music or in their process, that if I can help something with those topics, because I feel that I have had so many good teachers during my studies and my careers, and also colleagues, because I felt that sometimes it's playing, but also sometimes it's the talks. That's something that you build a relationship to work with your own music, because it's really scary when you need to present something unready to someone. So how to and I'm thinking a lot and I'm also developing myself, how to give feedback, and how, what is the process, when to push a little bit, and when it's actually time to be silent and accept that this is now it's a process that I need to just maybe comfort, but then maybe next time we are in a place that maybe we can try something that is really scary, or some tools. And I think, for example, and also performing, because I felt that during my studies we were practicing performing, but maybe I missed the practical tools. I heard often that just don't be nervous, or just be yourself on the stage, but how to do it? I felt that I was really frustrated. Then I started to learn myself. I gave myself tasks, how to practice, how to be on the stage, how to be there, and what kind of presence you can have there, or how to handle stage nervousness, or this horrible thing, something happens during the gig, how to work with disappointments or with shame. That something happens, you make a mistake, you forget lyrics, something happens, how to get over it, and how to maybe learn to hear your recordings or watch yourself from the video, and maybe how to, because I think that's a process that it's a lifelong process to be able to survive in this, business is wrong word, but this world, because it's reflecting, everybody is seeing, and I felt that it's really scary to develop under other people's eyes. So somebody, oh, now you are better. I saw you 5 years ago, but now you have you are better. So it's really okay, maybe 5 years. I was really bad. But it's really, I feel that is really, you feel really naked.
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very special thing that students get to work with you, because you are still on the lifelong journey. So constantly coming across new ideas and new feelings and new practical tools for yourself that you're able to pass on to your students. I think that's a very special relationship. It's time for your final track,
Oh, yeah.
which is something very exciting indeed. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is that song I somehow, when I hear a good song, I can loop it a lot, like days, hundreds of times. And this is the song I have been looping lately a lot, like non-stop. This is a band from Ukraine. The band Goa, actually, they participate to Eurovision also a few years ago, but they released a new single now. This is really like this dancing music, and I think this is a good running song. But I love this kind of folk music harmonies, these tight harmonies that also we have in our like tradition, but also from Bulgaria, wherever. I really like this like female choirs, so they combine really nicely, I feel, this tradition, the vocal sound and electronics. And because I'm also playing in the band called Okra Playground, that we are combining like traditional music and folk music elements with electronics. So I wanted to pick this because this is, I think, at the moment, the song I'm listening a lot.
Your latest inspiration.
Yeah. This is a really good song, I feel.
Як я тобі ворожила, сухі верби цвіли, як я тобі ворожила, небо стало біле. Як я тобі ворожила, сухі верби цвіли, як я тобі ворожила, небо стало біле. Як я тобі ворожила, все про тебе знала, як я тобі ворожила, правду не сказала. Як я тобі ворожила, сухі верби цвіли, як я тобі ворожила, небо стало біле. Як я тобі ворожила, сухі верби цвіли, як я тобі ворожила, небо стало біле. Як я тобі ворожила, все про тебе знала, як я тобі ворожила, правду не сказала.
It is an exceptional track, isn't it? This is Ukrainian DJ Olga Korolova, the German producer Roxton, and this Ukrainian folktronica band Go A. And the track is called Vorozhila, and it was released last year. Maja Kauhanen, thank you very much for joining us. I think we do have some time for your questions, so please, let's begin. If you have something you're dying to ask, please do not be shy. And if you don't, I have got some questions of my own.
No, it's your jazz.
Yes.
I'd love to hear you play the kantele if it's possible.
Oh, you're going to have to take the box microphone so we can hear your question.
Box.
I'd love to hear you play the actual kantele if it's possible.
Oh yeah.
But I also have a question. How is it unique and different from other string instruments? Maybe you can help us who are not musically as literate to understand the key differences that make it that special. I mean, I'm used to, as an Indian, santur and other instruments that are, they look similar, but I'm sure they're very, very different. So I just want you to
different, but also really the same.
Okay, maybe you can tell us.
So this I have here is this Saarijärven kantele that has a different number of bass strings depending on the builder, and I love basses, so I have many. So this model has 24 strings. So kantele works so that it's like a harp with the steel strings. So one note per one string. So here, for example, that I have, it's mostly now tuned in G major. So if you can think like piano, I have just white keys. So no black ones at all. So that's why that I can't play all the chromatic things. So I think as a kantele player, I always think a lot like what I don't need. If there's a song and a chord, what I can't play, then I think if there's any possible note that I can play, and then I need to pick one, or then I'm just muting everything. And then I have bass strings. So, or maybe I play, so it sounds like this. So I can play with one hand, left hand playing bass strings, and then right hand melody strings, and also I can play with this stick that I was talking earlier. You can play also with the guitar pick, but this is actually, how to say, barbecue stick from the shop, and also nail, manicure sticks are really good ones too. They played old times with the matchsticks, but I remember still that when I was a teenager, I broke 3 matchsticks during one song, and then I realized never again. So these are stronger. So then the chords work that I damp the ones that I don't need, and then I have the chord. So this is how it mostly works. So always one note per one string. So if I have 5-string kantele, then I have just actually 5 strings. But of course then I have a lot of overtones. So a lot of sounds, and then also I can mute some strings. So I will use overtones. So there are a lot of sounds. And also with my dad, I was inspired. I wanted to play a kantele with a bow. And because the strings are flat, so then we actually cut a little bit strings away from my kantele, like wood away, so it's more curved. So now I can play also with the bow, like more strings, using overtones, because it's, again, the lowest one. But then I can have the flageolets or overtones, so. So there are a lot of like sounds. And then of course you can put here like tin foil or paper or blue tack or basically anything. Yeah.
So I guess my question was, what makes a kantele instead of a santur or something else?
I think, that's a tricky question. I think, for example, I think it's because of every instrument are made of the local wood. So, for example, in Estonia, they have kannel, so it's actually the same instrument, but it's a little bit tuned differently sometimes. They have a little bit, their basic model is tuned lower than Finnish kantele, but I can't maybe say what makes like more. So they have in each country they have a little bit different chromatic system, but it's almost the same. But of course, in each country they have developed that one. But I feel it's almost the same instrument. You can maybe Rita and Vilma say if you have a more info, but I feel that sometimes people think that they are more different than they are. So it's, I think, the wood, and of course how do you put the strings? So in kantele we have 2 pins, and then sometimes, for example, in kuokle and this chromatic kankles and kuokle that come from Latvia and Lithuania, they have this kind of bridge that when the string is going over that one, that makes the string like sound different. So, and also in Finland we have so many kantele models, so every kantele sounds a little bit different. This is maybe the best answer that I can.
Pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, but good question. But I feel that I have been learning so much during the years that like they are so similar, the instruments, and how much more we could and we should play together with different string instruments, because also every country have their own, like, and players have developed their own techniques. How much we could learn from each other more that we have done. So I think that's a really inspiring world. I would like to buy like some Santur or Kanun and like learn to play. I think it's really cool instrument.
Are there any more questions? Well, in which case, I think we'll leave it there, because it's really nice that the last thing we've done is hear you play. It's really wonderful to hear you play, and thank you for bringing your kantele with you today.
No problem.
All that's left for me to say is thank you very much to all of you for joining us this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I feel like I've got the best seat in the house in this role, especially with somebody like Maya. The series continues now in the autumn, and the first episode in the autumn semester will be on September the 2nd. Please keep your eyes peeled, as we will soon be announcing our guest for the opening of the new academic year. Most of all, I'd like to thank Maija Kauhanen for such an inspiring and fascinating journey into your musical world. Thank you very much for being here, and yeah, we hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Great. We
Thank you. Yes. And if you have any questions, or if you want to check the instrument closer, I'm here, so do so. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's wonderful. Really great.
Thank you.